This week on the Dubcast, part of the Roundball Australia podcast network, the little club that could has done it once again. The Central Coast Mariners are A-League Women Champions, and we love a bandwagon here on the Dubcast, as indicated by the hat that I am wearing. I never stopped believing. I certainly never said in a preview last week that Melbourne Victory would win. I uttered no such thing. That didn't happen. But I did back Isabel Gomez for player of the match, and she got player of the match. She scored. She converted her penalty in the shootout for an all-around performance. The first time that the A-League Women Grand Final has been decided on penalties in its 17-year history. We'll recap everything that happened in the game, both on and off the field. Elsewhere, the Matildas have named their 23-player squad for the Argentina series, which features the aforementioned Isabel Gomez as she gets her second Matildas call-up, and there's no injuries to stop her this time. Elsewhere, Erin Healy is called up to the Island squad, and there are a bunch of familiar faces in the Football Ferns squad. A number of A-League women players continue to filter their way back to the NPL competitions, and we'll preview Melbourne City in the Asian Women's Champions League finals. My name is Poletti and Burke. It's just unbelievable that the Mariners have done it. This is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I think I was reading on Twitter from our good friend Marissa Lordanek, who said that this win was the first time since like 2015 that the championship had been won by someone that wasn't City, Victory, or Sydney. So that's crazy. Took 10 years for someone else to get their foot in the door. And yeah, what a team to do it.
Yes, so the entire time that Melbourne City have been an A-League women team, only 3 teams have won the championship, and Mariners just become the 6th club overall, along with Brisbane Roar and Canberra United, to win the championship. Honestly, it was just amazing.
Yeah, it was a really interesting game, is what I'll say for now.
So it was 0-0 at halftime. It was 1-1 after the 90 minutes, with Isabel Gomez getting her goal in the 46th minute, about 40 seconds after halftime had resumed, capitalising on an error. Claudia Bunge in the 80th minute to send it to extra time. 1-1 after extra time. No goals scored in the additional 30 minutes. Mariners winning 5-4 on penalties. Melbourne Victory kicked first with Alana Yanchevsky rattling the crossbar, while everyone else made their shots to give the Mariners that 5-4 win. Post-game, Emily Husband, I was definitely overcome with emotion. I'm not a crier, but I cried like a little baby. Isabel Gomez said that it's a great feeling to be recognised for what I've been doing. It's an awesome feeling, and definitely a credit to the girls and the whole entire team. They've helped me throughout my entire journey. While Victory coach Jeff Hopkins, I think anyone that's brave enough to stand up and take a penalty, that's all they can do going first. That's a bit of an adrenaline rush. We've been practicing. Alana Yanchevsky has been taking 10 15 a week. I've never seen her miss one. As I said, the first time the game, the A-League Women Grand Final has been decided by penalties in the 17 years that we've had the dub. There's no shortage of storylines coming out of this game, Burke. Where do you want to start?
Oh, I don't know. Why don't you pick? You always let me start, so you can pick.
All right, I will pick. I think Emily Husband becoming just the 4th woman to coach her side to a grand final victory, and if memory served me correctly, the first since Jess Fishlock in 2017 after Montemiro left to go to Arsenal at the time, if I've got my years right.
Yeah. No, that's correct, yeah.
I mean, I think it speaks to several things. I think it speaks to the fact that there aren't enough women coaches in football, period. But also just, the fact that grand finals are hard to win.
Yeah, they really are. Jeff Hopkins can probably tell you that. He's been in what, 40% of the grand finals that this league has ever had. And yeah, you don't win them all, unfortunately. But yeah, Emily Husband's done it. It's only her second season, I believe, as a pro coach as well, which is unreal. And that was, yeah, something that Izzy Gomez spoke about in the presser about how good of a coach M Husband is, and just how much confidence she's instilled in all of her players throughout the season, and just been building this whole time to get them to this point, and it's all paid off.
Yeah, so obviously before the Mariners, Emily Husband was coaching Sydney United in the NPL, not Sydney United, Sydney University in the NPL Women's New South Wales. I was listening to an NPL men's podcast earlier today, which is why I've got Sydney United on the brain, even though I probably shouldn't have. Coaching Sydney University in the NPL Women's New South Wales. Turned down that job at first, so if you're not familiar with the story, she was coaching it as an assistant at Canberra United at the time. Alex Aparkis departed to go to Perth Glory in the A-League Women. She was having discussions with, with the club. They asked her if she wanted to come in. She said she felt she wasn't ready. Took a little bit of convincing to come in. Did a great job with Sydney University, and it got her to, an opportunity with the Central Coast Mariners, and this time she didn't hesitate. Reading last week that she basically said, look, if I go and I fail, then I found my level, which is coaching NPL. And if I'm successful, then the sky's the limit. She takes the Central Coast Mariners to semi-final defeat to Sydney FC last season over the two legs. This time, she takes it to the grand final, to the trophy. I mean, there's just something about her that makes players want to play for her. Like, you got to remember, this is a Mariners side that has been battered with injury all season. Taryn King only came back like 4 weeks ago, maybe a little bit longer. Taylor Ray's been playing out of position for most of the season. Bianca Gallich just played out of position at times as well, and yet they've all just done their job. No one's complained. They've all gone about it. They haven't used it as an excuse. Tactically, they've been incredibly sound. They've been one of the best sides in the competition, even though results haven't necessarily gone their way. Probably in part because of the injuries. They had to go the long way through the final series to do it. They did that. I mean, it's I'm running out of things to describe just how good of a coach Emily Husband is. This is someone who I've been watching for a few years now. I believe I ran afoul of her after last year, the semi-final loss, and I was trying to, I guess, sort of, because she brought in a lot of, I don't want to say unknowns, but players who, when she went to the Mariners, who hadn't necessarily been given chances at the upper level, and I use the term NPL players, to which she hit back. Well, you may think they're NPL players, but these are players who are worthy to be playing at the level, and the players have absolutely proved that. She's proven that they're good enough to play at this level. Which was sort of the point I was trying to make, but I worded the question incredibly poorly. I have a bad habit of doing, and so yeah, we're all sitting there in a room after a loss, and it's like, oh well, I've accidentally sucked the energy out of this crap.
Nice.
And then this time, and then this year, the energy didn't get sucked out of the press conference room at all, did it, Burke?
No, not at all. The first thing actually M Husband said when she got in to the room was, she started apologizing and then said, I smell like a brewery, because someone had dumped like an entire bottle of champagne on her. Many of the players post-game smelt a lot like champagne.
And they looked like they smelt a lot like champagne too, if the pictures that are on social media are anything to be believed.
As they should. Like...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what is the limit for this Mariners squad? I know it's really early to say back to back, but I mean, Emily Husband's probably not going anywhere anytime soon. I can't imagine a lot of these players are not coming back next season, unless they get moves overseas. Like, what is the limit here for the Mariners?
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that about the big moves and the potential for them, because AAP's Anna Harrington did ask Izzy Gomez what was next for her and if she, you know, because games like this, you do actually get a lot of interest from overseas and from other clubs. Asked her if she was staying, if she was going, what she was doing next, and if there'd been any interest in her from overseas. And oh, poor Gomez, she looked very much a deer caught in the headlights, whilst Emily Husband was sitting next to her as the question was asked, just slowly nodding her head, like, yes, there has been interest, and there should be interest. However much interest there is, there should be more. There should be more. So yeah, I
Well,
guess we'll
Wellington is
find out.
overseas.
I guess
Auckland
we'll
is
find
overseas.
out where she goes, if she goes. But yeah, M. Husband was saying during the presser that what she wants to do next season is do the double, and then do the treble, do the whatever is on offer. They just want to keep going because I mean, yeah, sky's the limit, or at least the treble's the limit, unless they bring in another competition somehow. I think.
Women's Australia Cup.
Bring it on. Make it a quadruple. Who cares? Just
I believe we need
keep
full time
going.
professional. I believe we need full time professionalism for that first, which
Yeah.
is unfortunate because I do remember Sam Lewis reporting in 2023 that was a plan of Football Australia was a women's version of the Australia Cup, and that was a bit over 2 years ago. So
Yeah.
I imagine the
Let's
full
go
time contract. I
professionalization.
imagine the full time contract situation has really put the kibosh on a lot of those plans. On the Melbourne Victory side of things, Burke, look, it was literally 2 inches, and we're looking at 5-5. They might still be shooting penalties. With how much they were going back and forth with each other. I mean, that goal mouth looked absolutely horrific. And we'll get onto the pitch, don't worry. And I certainly don't blame Courtney Newborn or Izzy Gomez for slipping at points throughout the shootout either. It's another season where Victory haven't won a trophy. Is it just as simple as they're literally 2 inches away from winning one, or like what do
Yeah.
we make of what happened on the losing side of the equation on Sunday?
Well, it's strange because the first half they looked pretty. There were a bit of nerves, obviously, but they looked pretty comfortable pretty quickly. Melbourne Victory, and then, which I have forgotten many a time now, they had two goals that were disallowed. So one was rightfully called offside, M. Gilnick offside when she scored it, and the other one, I think it was Sarah D'Apollonia, was seen to have fouled Langman in the box.
And she absolutely did.
Yeah, yeah. And I think Victory played a good game. They had like 30 shots on goal, I think. I think Sarah Langman was just on one. Just, yeah, absolutely rose to the occasion. But yeah, Victory had a really good, solid game. It just wasn't their day, and they definitely missed either a penalty or a free kick right outside the area. I think it was a penalty. The footage that they've put up, well, the GIF that they put up on Paramount Plus's Twitter is pretty damning of Taylor Ray, who looks like she's just kind of palmed the ball. So, I mean, M. Gilnick spoke about it afterwards, saying that she said it was a handball, and she'd already envisioned herself having scored that penalty that they should have had, which is all outlined in the article that I wrote for Roundball Australia, which you should check out if you haven't already. And if you have, do it again. Click on it again. Because, it's nice to get those clicks. Um, but yeah, I think it was really rough for it to be Alana Yanchevsky, the one to miss it, because she's had a cracker of a season. She's had to move down the pitch from being kind of a forward/winger to the back line because of Beatty Goad's retirement, and she's done a really good job of it. If you've seen Yanchevsky play, which if you're listening to this podcast, you definitely have, she's a big game player. And you could see it I saw it at least in the NPL Vic Grand Final last season. She usually makes penalties, and Jeff Hopkins said it too. But
I watched her make one in Beatty Goad's retirement game against Sydney FC.
Yeah.
All the way back in December. I believe it was the lone goal from that game, if memory serves me correctly. Yep.
The game winner.
Yeah.
She knows how to take a penalty.
Sorry to interrupt your train of thought there. But.
No, she knows how to take a penalty. So it was very unfortunate. It kind of felt like it reminded me of, which also happened at Amy Park, when the US got knocked out of the Women's World Cup not even last year, the year before last. Oh, the passage of time. Stop.
It comes for us all.
Ooh, that's horrible. When, Megan Rapinoe, who you'd usually every day of the week back to put a penalty in, didn't. And after the game as well, Emily Gilnick spoke about how she went to see her after it all happened, because she kind of just collapsed at the halfway line and didn't move for a while. She spoke to her and was saying that, the best way to get over it is to just score another penalty. And that, unfortunately, you'll probably be in this situation again, because Gilnick's gone through it. She brought up that penalty that she missed against Norway to Yanchevsky, which was also a big moment to have not converted. So, it was a real shame that it was her. But again, like Jeff said, she's like, anyone that does take the penalties, especially in a moment like that, is very, very brave. So,
I will pay credit to friend of the pod, Marisol Danik, who went back into the history books here, back to 2019, and words from Ante Milicic, following Sam Kerr's miss in the round of 16 shootout loss to Norway at the 2019 Women's World Cup. All I will say is only big players can miss penalties because small ones don't take them. And I think that speaks a lot to Yanchevsky. As you said, she's a big game player. She went first. On the other side of the equation, 16-year-old Tiana Fuller went first. Nerves of steel. Like, to go to shoot a penalty, period, is nerves of steel in a shootout. To volunteer yourself to be first, absolute madness. 30 shots in this game for victory, 11 of those on target, 15 for the Mariners, 4 of those on target. Possession was basically split. This was a game that was probably deserving to go to penalties, and unfortunately, someone has to lose in a penalty shootout. And for Jeff Hopkins and the Melbourne victory, it was them.
Yep. You don't get to win them all, unfortunately. But Central Coast were good for it when it came down to the wire. They did exactly what they needed to do with the penalties. I would never take a penalty, but that's why I'm not even a small game player. I'm no game player at all. That's why I'm on this podcast.
You're a big game player on this podcast, Burke. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This show doesn't happen without you.
That's right. This is the only place I'm a big game player. Big game talker, maybe.
Big game talker. I like that. If I didn't already have the heading, if I didn't already have the title worked out for this podcast, that would be the title. Just big game. We will talk more about this. Can't speak. We will talk more about the grand final later in the week, as we anticipate that we'll be joined by a special guest for an interview. So stay tuned to the Round Ball Australia and Dubcast socials on that. Alternatively, you can hit subscribe and the little notification bell on whatever platform you're listening on, and you'll be notified when that drops. So yeah, we hope to have that to you later in the week, where we will spend a little bit of time discussing another monumental occasion that occurred on the day of the USA's penalty shootout loss at the World Cup to Sweden, that did not occur at the World Cup, but was certainly a significant part of that day, at least to me. And Burke has no idea what I'm talking about, so it's going to be a great surprise.
I'm very excited.
We will... Oh, sorry, go on.
Just before we move on to speak about the quality of the pitch, which...
Oh, yes, we had the pitch to speak about. I did not put this into the rundown, even though I said 5 minutes ago that we were going to talk about it, which should tell you what my memory is like. So the Amy Park pitch is renowned around the country for being one of the best pitches, despite the sheer amount of traffic that it faces with, two A-League men teams, occasionally three, playing on it. You've got Super Rugby, you've got the Melbourne Storm in the NRL, plus whatever other events and everything they play there. The fact that, you've also got A-League women games that get played there. And I maybe you can tell me what the weather situation was last weekend in Melbourne, Burke, but it had Western United and Melbourne City in the A-League men on Friday night. It had Auckland and Melbourne Victory on Saturday night, and then by the time this game rocked up on Sunday afternoon, the 6-yard boxes were basically mud. The pitch was chopped up. I think it might have been raining a little bit on Sunday, but that doesn't explain the state of the pitch. This was shocking is probably the only way I can describe it, because it shouldn't have happened.
Comparing it to a cow paddock is insulting to cows, I feel. Yeah, it was diabolically bad. I think I've literally stolen that phrasing from Dale Roots on the other podcast that I'm on. But it's true, so it bears saying again. Just horrible. I think Furphy had come on whenever she was subbed in, and all of 4 minutes later had these streaks of mud down her chest. Unbelievable. As for the weather, it had rained a bit one night, overnight. I do not remember what night that was, because Time and I, we don't know each other. We're passing acquaintances at best. The weather has been pretty grim, very cold as of late. It's like autumn finally decided to rock up and is here with a vengeance. But yeah, the pitch was just not good. I'm genuinely surprised no one got injured. I'm very happy about that, but I'm also surprised that it happened. You could see there were so many points at which players just slipped over, or just they were trying to, accelerate and take off and couldn't because of the ground. And obviously you saw Izzy Gomez's penalty, where she slipped over. Afterwards in the presser, she was like, yeah, that penalty was absolutely shocking, but a goal's a goal. So, because yeah, she slipped, went feet up, and just kind of lay on the ground.
And Courtney Newborn slipped on the save as well.
Yeah.
It was the worst Panenka of all time, because it wasn't a deliberate Panenka.
The other thing was, I was really surprised that they chose to shoot at that end, because that goal mouth, in my opinion, from what I could see, looked the worst of the two. So, I don't know. It was horrible. So when I was watching this game, I was sort of floating in and out of the 10-play replay
sort of vibe, and I kept on getting kicked out. So there were certain bits of things that I missed. Did the Mariners win the toss and want to shoot towards their fans? Was it
They
predetermined which end it was
must
going to be
have.
at? Did you, like
I honestly, I can't remember. I'm gonna guess that they must have done a coin toss for it. But yeah, it was the worst pitch, the worst I've seen Amy Park look in a very long time. But yeah, I guess that's what happens when you only have one sort of pitch available for these kinds of games, really. Yeah, if someone wants to build like another big proper stadium, I wouldn't say no. Wouldn't say
can we
no.
turn the home of the Matildas into a 20,000 seat stadium out at Latrobe University?
Again, wouldn't say no. It's very far away from my house, but I still wouldn't say no.
Well, the alternative is a 15,000 seat stadium out at Casey Fields, and I don't think you want that. Or we could
I
have
think
that.
that's I think that's what they're going to do anyway. When I was at Casey recently for that cursed semi-final, I found out that they were actually meant to build two grounds, but they, during COVID, ran out of money for it. So, with the kind of agreement that they've got going with the Labor government, they should get the rest of the funding because what they want to do is build an actual proper grandstand on the opposite side of where that ground is. So, it'll have a proper grandstand. I'm not sure what the capacity would look like, but that's what they're aiming for out in Casey, I believe.
I mean, the alternative is we get that 15,000 seater stadium out at Western United, out at Tarneit. Which would you prefer? Would you prefer 15,000 at Tarneit or 15,000 at Casey?
Low key Casey, because if it's Tarneet, I have to drive over the Westgate Bridge, and I hate doing that. I really do.
Sounds
Casey's
like
on Casey's on my side of the city, so
sounds like me on the weekend trying to navigate the Harbour Bridge.
no, I simply
Which
don't
is
want to do it.
No, it was not great. I made the mistake of going a different way to Northbridge Oval for my MPL game on the weekend, and low key, I'm not keen to repeat it.
No, it's always the one time you're like, yeah, I'll try a different route this time, and it's just like the worst choice you've ever made in your whole entire life.
I mean, I was running slightly late, so like it saved me time after I paid some tolls, and it was like,
Oh,
well,
tolls.
whatever. And then I'm just like, yeah, okay, I'm never doing this again. So that was our grand final review. We'll turn our attentions now to the Asian Women's Champions League. Melbourne City are in action tonight. If you're listening to this on Wednesday, the day of the podcast release, Melbourne City will face South Korean side Incheon Red Angels in the semi-final. If they win, they will advance to the final and play the winner of the other semi-final, which is taking place between Wuhan Jiangda and Ho Chi Minh City from Vietnam. This taking place in Wuhan, with the Chinese side putting up to host. Holly McNamara, as we understand it at the time of recording, was cleared to travel, but as of recording has yet to be cleared to play after the concussion and fractured nose in the semi-final. If they get past Incheon Burke, you would have to think Melbourne City are the favourites to take out the trophy. So I guess the question is, with what I'm sure is with what I'm sure is as much knowledge about South Korean women's football as mine, do we think Melbourne City can get past Incheon Red Angels?
Honestly, I don't see why not. I can imagine they're coming into this game with a lot of fire in their bellies after what happened to them losing in that semi-final. So, provided everyone has a clear head and they're not seeing red again, I don't see why they wouldn't be able to take it to the Red Angels. I was speaking to Briley Henry and Leah Davidson when the Matildas squad was announced because they were the two players put up for it. They were talking about they've been watching a lot of game footage and they've been hearing a lot about how Red Angels play a lot of football. I believe they're still pretty early in their season, but they have some weeks apparently where they play like 3 games a week, which is unreal. I was talking about how they needed to get a PFA started up down there because that can't be right.
That sounds insane that
Yeah,
this would be, um, that 3 games a week. I mean, that's
unbelievable.
men's European season
Yeah,
level of gameplay. Like
that, no,
that's
thank you.
championship on the men's side level of gameplay, which
Yeah,
is barely suitable enough for them.
yeah. But as far as I'm aware, Incheon Red Angels do have quite a few national team players in their squad, so they're a solid team. I think was it the Red Angels that played Sydney FC last time in like the
That
cup or
that
whatever?
sounds right. I should be able to tell you this off the top of my head. Although I
But
can't.
the Red Angels, if it was them, beat Sydney 3-0, if I'm remembering what I was told yesterday.
Yes, it
Ah,
was. It was
yay.
Incheon Red Angels. They went and lost the final to
Yeah.
Aurora Red Diamonds 2-1.
Yeah. So, yeah, people are people. Here, it's most likely that this semi final between City and Incheon will be kind of the final because no one was really expecting Wuhan to get through over Urawa Reds because they're, yeah, a great team, but they did it on penalties. And yeah, I guess if you've got the nerve to back yourself through penalties, there's no telling what you can pull out. But it should be a really interesting game. It's all going to be available to watch on the YouTube channel for it, the AFC YouTube channel. City's game is at 10 p.m. and then the first semi-final is at 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So if you have a couple of spare minutes on a Wednesday night, chuck it on.
I will be locked and loaded and ready to go. So yes, so Wuhan's Jiangda versus Ho Chi Minh City, Wednesday, May 21, 6 p.m. kickoff Australian Eastern Standard Time, followed by Incheon Red Angels versus Melbourne City. That is 10 p.m. kickoff, as Burke said, same day, and then the final also scheduled for a 10 p.m. kickoff on Saturday night. In addition to AFC's YouTube channels, it will also be available on 10 Play. All 3 of those fixtures, so no shortage of places with which to watch the rest of the Asian Women's Champions League.
And if you watch that final, you can stay up another hour and a half, 2 hours, and then watch the UEFA Women's Champions League final at 2 in the morning.
Which I believe is available via KO, DAZN, and Fox Sports. So no shortage of places and subscriptions to be able to watch that either, if that tickles your fancy. I am certainly not staying awake until the middle of the night on a Thursday morning to watch
I might.
to watch the Champions League.
We'll see what happens.
Turn our attention now to national team news. Said the Matildas have announced their squad to face Argentina in the upcoming window at the end of May and June. Amy Sayer comes back into the squad. Carly Johnson gets her first call up into the senior women's side after featuring quite heavily for the under-20s over the last few years, which I know has made a friend of the pod, Kieran Yap, very happy. Just Holly McNamara named despite her injury, expected to be able to play. Given that she's in China, presumably she will play at least one of these games. Should Melbourne City make the final. Jamila Rankin continues her call-up. Jada Wyman is back in as well after having recovered from her injury and is off the back of some good form in Sweden for AIK. And Morgan Aquino comes in as the third-choice goalkeeping option. Mackenzie Arnold not there, so it was Tegan Micah as the experienced goalkeeper within this squad. Were there any real surprises besides what I've mentioned there, Burke?
I'm not surprised by the Arsenal trio being called up, but it's also like They literally have Champions League final like 5 or 6 days before.
Just let them rest. Sorry, I should.
They,
I just. I.
if you were planning on going to the Melbourne game at Marvel Stadium, do not be surprised if none of them feature. And do be surprised if they do feature. The only, like, I can imagine Steph maybe coming on, maybe Kyra, because they're both from Victoria. Kyra's Victorian. We claim her.
I know that
But
she's from Bleebley United FC in Football Queensland. I don't want to hear none of this. I don't want to hear none of this claiming.
she's a Victorian. She's a
She's just
Victorian.
another successful product of the
Victorian.
Queensland to Victoria pipeline.
She's Victorian. I'll be on my deathbed claiming that probably. Yet do not be surprised if you do not see a single second of the three of them. Unfortunately, they have champos, and that is kind of like maybe just like a tiny, teeny little bit more important than a friendly game against Argentina. So,
Just a little
just
bit.
warning you, don't be surprised.
Yeah.
I hope in either of these two games we finally get to see Jada Wyman capped. Someone at the press conference for it brought it up to Tom Samani that she hadn't been capped, and he was shocked. He was like, "What? She hasn't played yet?" And everyone was like, "No, not yet." And he was like, "Oh, I just thought she had. She's been there so many times."
Always
So-
the third choice behind Mackenzie Arnold, Lydia
Always.
Williams, Tegan
Yeah.
Micah.
Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Maybe like the second bridesmaid, even. Like, she's kind of unfortunately been that far down. But this, fingers crossed, is her moment. I mean, honestly, just give them both a half between her and Aquino. Just half and half. Who
mean-
cares? Literally, it's a friendly. We need to try stuff out now as soon as we can. Because the Asian Cup is so
So
close.
close, yes. I mean, the only reason I can think of why you wouldn't try both Aquino and Wyman, and I'm not saying that neither of them should get game time, but I think we do have to remember the fact that Tegan Micah is currently without a club, and this might be the only game time, besides the Perth window, that she gets for quite a while, unless she signs with an NWSL club or one of the clubs in the Nordic region, which are playing their seasons at the moment. The other thing that I did want to talk about from this squad, Claire Wheeler named once again, recently signed a new 2-year deal with Everton, has been captaining the squad in the last few weeks, and not necessarily Australian football related here, Burke, but I feel it's the best place to put it in. It's been announced that Everton women will play their games out of Goodison Park. It's been saved.
Yeah, I think that's really great news. And I think every single loser on the internet that's been crying about the men not playing there can, well, stick it where the sun don't shine. And yeah, people are like, oh, I don't want to go see them there. I don't want to go see women there. And it's like, you've been watching the men lose there for however many years. Like, I'm sure you can handle seeing the women probably win a game or two there. But yeah, I think it's great news. I think Wheels has been having a massive season, obviously, because they've been rewarding her with not just game time, but the captain's armband. Let's go Australian takeover. We're taking back the colonizers' land. Just took us like 250 years, whatever. Yeah, I think it's great for her. And I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, in a couple years' time if we don't get to see her captaining the Matildas. I think she's good for it.
Yeah, I mean, someone has to step in and maybe take the armband next, perhaps under the new coach. We don't know. I also, on that note, I will say there were reports coming out from News Corp last week through Code Sports that apparently there is a second name on the list, but that Joe Montemurro is still the front runner. We're not going to talk about that because we're losing our mind over it. We just want it to be done, but it is worth mentioning at the very least. Elsewhere, Erin Healy has been called up to Ireland's squad for the upcoming international window. She'll be part of the squad to face Turkey and Slovenia in Nations League games during the upcoming window. And plenty of familiar names in the Football Ferns squad. Claudia Bunge getting her... not Claudia Bunge. I was thinking the other Claudia Jenkins getting another call up for games against Venezuela after getting called up for the window against Taiwan, in which games were not played due to safety reasons, which essentially was close to a wasted window, I want to say, in terms of the Football Ferns side of things. But I mean, if you have a look across this list, you've got Kelly Brown, Claudia Bunge, Millie Clegg, Devon Jackson, Grace Jarley, Claudia Jenkins, Annalie Longo coming out of retirement to
Maybe
be called back
she
up.
only retired domestic football. Maybe she still wants to go with the Ferns. Honestly, she's so much of an icon that if she puts her hand up, you kind of have to take it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe she's having second thoughts about the decision, and
I
might
wouldn't hate that.
like she
If
could be
she
having
wanted
second
to
thoughts about
come
the
back.
decision to retire.
I mean, just do what Michelle Heyman did. It doesn't really count as a retirement if you don't want it to count. All right, we'll forget about it. We'll pretend you didn't say you were retiring. If you want to keep playing.
Exactly, as friend of the podcast Robbie Thompson said on the recently rebooted A-League Off Air podcast, it's the John Farnham farewell tour. It just keeps on going. So I'll take more of the John Farnham farewell tour from Annalie Longo if she wants to come back and play for another season or 2 or 5. And I'm sure there are a lot of people who feel the same. So yeah, plenty of international football action to keep you going. Heading to the domestic game once again, the NPL. West Adelaide are still undefeated in NPL South Australia, 7 wins, 1 draw. They did not play last week, that I was able to see anyway. South Melbourne are still undefeated in NPL Victoria, 5 wins, 4 draws, but they are now in second place, Burke.
Yep, they've been overtaken by the one and only, and their biggest rivals are Heidelberg United, who have, won more games than the South Melbourners have drawn. So they've got the points.
Yep, 6 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss for Heidelberg. So South Melbourne won't go wire to wire, even if they do remain undefeated. More A-League women players are just continuing to filter back into the NPL in the off-season. I can only speak from an NPL New South Wales perspective, as that is obviously I commentate in that competition. I'm very much across that competition. Indiana Dos Santos has joined Janea Dos Santos at Bulls FC Academy. I called that game on the weekend and was quite surprised to see her name on the team sheet, as I was not made aware of it. So I was quite excited. I got to call the Dos Santos sisters for the entirety of the second half. Janea starting the game and nabbing herself a brace, along with Sydney FC striker and last year's Golden Boot winner Amber Luchtmeyer also getting a brace in what was a 5-2 win over MacArthur Rams in the Battle for MacArthur Northbridge edition. At least that's what I call it anyway. Bulls FC being affiliated with MacArthur FC, being an academy really in name only, as they don't have an A-League women's side to transition into, unlike the Wanderers, the Newcastle Jets, and Central Coast Mariners. But yeah, so I'm hoping that name catches on eventually. But if not, I'll be leading the one-person crew to keep that name going. Plenty of other good results across the competition. Illawarra Stingrays got back to winning ways. The 3-0 win over Manly United. Mount Druitt 5-1 over the Wanderers. Gladesville Ravens 4-0 over Sydney Uni. 4-1 for UNSW over the Jets. And RPA Leichhardt continue their climb back up the table with a 3-0 win over Sydney Olympic, who are still winless after round 11. As a result, NPL Women's New South Wales commentator Nicola Posda reporting last week on the From the Gantry podcast, which is a great podcast. I listen to it every week, both their men's and women's shows. So I'm happy to give them a plug here as well. That Sydney Olympic expecting as many as 7 A-League women players in the transfer window. The first of those to return was 18 Keane on the weekend against Apia Leichhardt in that 3-0 loss. Given that they're winless after 11 rounds, we're almost at the point of the season, the halfway point of the season where everyone's played each other once. Burke, I understand you don't watch a lot of NPL New South Wales, but they can't get replacements soon enough.
Yeah, yeah. Open up that transfer window and bring them in now, or even earlier than now. Bring them in yesterday if you can.
Yes, it would be good. They certainly dealt with a lot of losses in the off-season, did Sydney Olympic, and haven't quite recovered yet. One of those losses being their coach, Jeff Abrahams, who went to the Western Sydney Wanderers. And obviously his replacement, whose name escapes me at the moment, is winless to start season 2025. So I will take this moment to continue to sing the good graces of the NPL. I would highly recommend, if you were looking for football during the A-League Women off-season, go to your local NPL games. You are likely, at least in Victoria and New South Wales, to see a multitude of A-League Women players, superstars as well, like recognisable names in the competition. Most games, I believe, don't have an entry fee to get into, in part because of some of the grounds that are played at. So be sure to just check the Football New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia websites for fixtures, times, dates. Some clubs will tell you who's in their squad. Others don't necessarily have that information available in terms of easy access. But, in New South Wales at least, it can be accessed quite easily through Dribble if you know what you're looking for. But look, you're going to see some fantastic games. You're going to see some fantastic talent, and you might even get to see the likes of the next Ellie Carpenter, or the next Kyra Cooney Cross, who's come through some of these games. Tiana Fuller, quite literally playing for Football New South Wales Institute last year. Plenty of. I mean, Jasmine Black has gone to the Northern Tigers because their goalkeeper Anna Norton is currently out with injury. So we had her on the pod a few weeks ago. You're going to see names that you recognise, names that you like watching in an A-League Women jersey, and there's no reason not to watch them in an NPL jersey. So I will just give that plug. I cannot recommend it enough. Get out to games. And if you can't make it to games, most of the state federations stream their games on YouTube. So be sure to check those out. Plenty of good quality football to watch. I believe that covers everything that we have on our rundown, Burke. A little bit of a shorter one this week, and I keep promising this A-League Women's Season review that we just don't keep getting to because everything keeps on popping up. But I will make sure that we get to it next week.
Yeah, it's been a very, very long season, longest ever so far. And yeah, it's been a great one, I think. Yeah, I'm kind of sad to see it go, but as you just said, there is still plenty more football to watch, plenty more places you can see your faves at, and maybe you'll find some new ones. Maybe you should find some new ones.
I mean, look, I enjoy watching the Illawarra Stingrays. You've got Brianna Edwards at one end of the pitch as a goalkeeper. You've got her twin sister, Siobhan Edwards, at the other end as a striker who scored a brace in that 3-0 win over Manly United for the Stingrays on Sunday afternoon. So you never know who's going to turn up. And you might even see some other names you recognise, just not in the way that you suspect, such as Shani Cooney Cross for NWS Spirit. You recognise the surname, certainly, but the first name definitely catches you by surprise at first. So, as I said, I cannot recommend it enough. We will get to our A-League Women's Season review next week, as well as a look ahead to the Matildas games against Argentina. But that will do for this episode of the Dubcast, part of the Round Ball Australia podcast network. Just a reminder, we will hope to be back later this week with a special guest for an interview. So stay tuned to socials. As I said, hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening on, whether that be Spotify, Apple, or watching on YouTube. And you'll get you should get a notification telling you that's live. But we'll be posting it all across socials. Burke, it's another season done and dusted, as you said. I don't want it to go.
It'll be back before we know it, honestly. Because, yeah, it's not like we have 800 months to wait. It's only like 5 or 6, not even 6, probably closer to 5. And that's no time at all. How exciting.
And so exciting as well. It'll be pre-season before we know it. And hopefully, unlike previous seasons, we'll actually know a lot more of the squads than we do. But for those who aren't aware of history, the only way you used to find out who was playing for your squad, unless your club was particularly proactive, was to rock up for round 1 and see who was on the team sheet.
Yeah, good stuff. We've come a very long way.
And we've still got plenty more of the way to go, and hope that next season is continues the longest season ever, and the season after that continues that as well. But as I said, we'll be back hopefully later this week, but our next full episode will be on Wednesday as always. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.